I mean, ultimately, I want to be able to make it so that people can find and add each other. I mean, like growing it. Yeah, right now, like YadaCoin, it's all about scaling and growing. That's like the two issues, right? So it's like, how do we make an infrastructure that will scale along with, everything that will scale along with the amount of growth that I want to see. So it's like that's what I did with the service providers, the seed gateways, and the seeds, right? So
Uh-huh.
because I mean, and the whole requirement, I guess I should have explained this. I don't know, but it's like my idea with all of this was the seeds will always be connected to each other.
Hmm.
So that was my whole goal with that, is that the seeds will always be connected to each other. Like there's no like disconnect between the seeds. There's not like regions or anything
Hmm.
like that. All seeds all see each other all the time.
Hmm.
That was my goal. And so um, you can't have that with like if it's just totally peer to peer. You can't have like 100,000 simultaneous uh, TCP connections to all the different nodes that are out there, regardless of what type of node they are. Right? I mean, it just seems like it would get overloaded,
Hmm.
especially with like I don't know, just like duplicate transactions coming in from different nodes that you already have. You know,
And
you
it sounds like potentially some sort of denial of service or distributed denial of service right there, which from a networking standpoint, depending on how you're going to host this, it will block a lot of that traffic as is.
right. So I'm just thinking. So my thought is, okay, well, I have all the seeds connected to each other, and then all the seeds will then have their own seed gateway, and so a seed can have, uh, I think it's a one-to-one relationship with a seed gateway.
Okay.
So so the seed can have, let's say, like 5,000 different peers with like all of the different seeds out there. Let's say there's like 5,000 other seeds. Okay, so you have that, and then you have the seed gateways connected to all of those seeds, right?
Hmm.
So then so it's like each seed would have like 5,000 plus one connections, and the plus one would be the seed gateway, and then the seed gateway would have any number of service providers. So a seed gateway could say have like 5,000 service provider connections, right? And then each service provider then has that many users. So that the user is kind of the end. So it's kind of like just separating the amount of work out that each node has to do.
Hmm.
And so like the seeds basically just they act as like a bridge to another network, if you will. You see what I'm
That makes
saying?
sense. Hmm.
And that's how I plan to scale the Yada network, right? It's just have like that structure going on because you could have like billions of users on it
Hmm.
at that point. It's yeah, just a matter of multiplication. So I don't know, something to think about there. And then beyond that, then it's about growth. Then it's like, okay, uh, we want to let people search for other users, and we want them to be able to add them easily, and then we want them to be able to interact easily. So it's like with the chat thing that we have right now, it's like you go on there, you can click a username in the group chat, and then add them, and then do direct encrypted communication, either in the mempool or the blockchain.
Hmm.
Yeah. So those are the two elements, and I'm thinking like, I mean, those are the two things that I'm pretty excited about. I feel like I want to come up with more ways for people to connect. You know what I mean? They have like all this metaverse stuff with like these games and like virtual reality and all this stuff, and I'm like, what are some like low hanging fruit interactions that we can grab up like right now? That would be nice to know. That's what I would like to get input on. See what
I feel
people.
like a some sort of Windows executable based identity. I don't want to call it a wallet because I don't think that would be the primary use of it in this case, but some sort of wallet that any given person could install that would give them the same feature set of the wallet, but without having to have a full node installed.
Mm.
And then having that as, or have that have some sort of API associated with it that then could be used for, like you were saying, with some sort of game or whatever it might be, where instead of log in with Google, log in with Apple, you have the ability to log in with Yada or log in with Center Identity. I mean, I think ultimately it's going to come down to some sort of API that you build that will reach back to either one of these nodes or some sort of centralized identity server to handle that authentication.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we could like have it run like a node that doesn't have the blockchain on it, and then they're just essentially like creating no coin transactions, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not,
but I know some of these other coins, they allow you to install their wallet, and the blockchain that it requires is only like the last 30 days worth of transactions or blocks that have been found or whatever it might be, to keep the overall size down, or it has pruning out of it to keep the blockchain size down to a certain size. So let's say, I don't know, if you require 100 megabytes for the full install, and it basically houses however many the last 100 megabytes worth of blocks found, as I guess the node of the blockchain that it houses locally.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe that's a way to make YadaCoins. Like if you could somehow like be a service provider and it's got to like tie into mining somehow too. Like if you can, because I mean people can't spend YadaCoins because they don't have the node running, so they don't have the coins, but they could be handing up hash rate and contributing to the service provider getting coins that way. Or maybe there's some other way that like a service provider could get additional coins by like hosting these light nodes or whatever. I'm not sure how you would like prove that and like reward them that way, but I feel like a lot of other coins use like inflation to pay for things. I mean, it's like, because I mean, where it's either you're either taking it, you're either inventing new coins or you're taking it from the block rewards that are already happening. So I'm not sure like which way to go with it as far as that goes, because I want to reward people and I want to incentivize them to interact with the network, but it's like, where's the money going to come from? I don't know. That's weird. I feel like this is like government already. It's like, how are we going to pay for it?
Yeah. I don't know. There's so many different potential options, so many different directions you could take this. I think it all just depends on what route you want to focus on. Just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that the encrypted. So we're on version 4.7.10 now. So I think that probably do like a version 4.8 and then just have all the nodes um, sending encrypted communication between each other. I think that would be an easy win. And I think it'd be a pretty big win too.
Yeah, and I think one of the one of the things, if this were my project that I would focus on and put some time in, would be creating, like we kind of discussed just now, that light wallet, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
where right now, if someone wants to create a wallet, and I think this is probably one of those things that would push people away. To install a full node on your system, and then the ability to interface with it is through a web browser. You have to have some sort of technical knowledge, some sort of technical ability there, which means the entry into this is not feasible
Mm-hmm.
for the vast majority of people.
Mm-hmm.
So creating some sort of way, some sort of mechanism, that light wallet, if you will, or even creating some sort of easier executable there to give people the ability to install a wallet without the intention of necessarily mining and only mining. So I think that's, when you look at most people right now, the transactions that are taking place are between people that are mining. You see someone that has mined X amount of coins and they want some more, so they wait until the price drops and they buy some more coins, which will ultimately either increase or decrease the price, depending on what the demand and the supply is. Well, right now, those people that are essentially running this whole supply and demand thing are those that are mining this coin. That entry into all of this, creating either a web wallet or creating a node on their own computers, in my opinion, very high, and makes things more difficult for these people to get introduced to Yada. And I think if you were able to do that and create this light wallet or some sort of easier to utilize wallet that's local on their system, it could drive up the interest in not only the coin but also that identity aspect of it for people wanting to do these transactions. And let's just say, I'll use Uplexa as an example, where I'm sending Uplexa from one wallet to another. I can attach a message to it. Well, now with these transactions, with that wallet that's local to their system, they can either attach a message to it or forego the sending coins altogether and just create this dialogue between one user or another.
So, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's awesome. So, like, yeah, they have to download the node and then they have to, like, open the browser and do the whole local host thing. And it's like some developer-ease, kind of talk, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, for sure. So it's like, but but obviously the most easiest thing is for them to just go to YadaCoin.io/app, create their identity, and they can just start talking that way. So it's like, what are they looking for in between? Like, I'm just wondering, like, what the advantage is for like a non-technical person to download something like the light wallet and have like this interface automatically pop up for them. Why would
So
why
I
would
think
why would they use that instead of just the YadaCoin.io/app? You know what I mean?
familiarity. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's going to be the biggest thing. When I first started looking at YadaCoin before I built up my pool, every other pool that I had set up, you have this wallet that you download and you configure it to be run as a daemon, and then the Stratum software, the mining software on the other end of it, talks back to that wallet.
Mm-hmm.
The wallet from almost every single other coin that I've dealt with is all very similar to each other. So there's that familiarity there. When it came time to more or less build the mining pool that I have, I mean, we worked very closely together to get it up and running because it was vastly different than any of the other coins that I've done. So I think that familiarity there, being a wallet that's similar to the others, but introduces all of the additional feature set into it, from one user to another, could make things, I guess, easier for them. And maybe from a technical standpoint on that, at least from me, looking at it from the security aspect to it, me needing to log into YadaCoin.io, navigate to that web wallet, and then do everything through there. I view that as a potential security risk. That's mainly because it introduces that communication now back and forth. And that's not to say there is some sort of security risk, but that was my first thought. And that's why there's web wallets for almost every other coin, but if you talk to the vast majority of the people, they have, I mean, I've seen in the Discord chat people asking about a paper wallet where they write down their WIF and walk away from everything else. So people having that local wallet on their system, or let's say they install this light node on a USB drive and then unplug it from their computer and their entire identity is now on a USB drive, but it's relatively easy to use, so now they plug that USB drive back into the computer, they run whatever executable on there, it downloads or syncs to Node, or whatever blockchain it needs or requires to run, and then they have full access to their wallet again.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So the wallet, hold on, I'm having a brain fog. So, okay, right. So the web wallet has the security issue because, YadaCoin, let's just say, could take your WIF, I guess, right? I mean, because it's communicating with, the domain and all that stuff. So, I mean, and I could generate JavaScript that pulls that out of the page and sends it back to my service or whatever, right? I mean, it's possible. But so people want to remove that technical possibility. And so, that makes perfect sense that you would want to download your wallet for that reason alone.
Yep, and here, I'll go one step further for you. Let's say, from an organizational standpoint, running this, if me, myself, as an organization, is running one of these nodes, and then I have X amount of users, from a management standpoint, do I want these users to run a full node on their system in order to utilize these identity feature set, like the communication aspect of it, the chat aspect of it, or do I want them to have to physically log into or access my node to be able to use those features, or would it be easier to have a smaller executable installed on their computer, on their asset, that then is able to communicate back? And then I'll even take it one step further. Let's say from a mobile aspect, if you want to have a mobile application that you install on either Android or iOS, does that require them to download the full node on their phone, or would they just have the basic feature set on their phone that would talk back to whatever organizational node or the master node?
Yeah. I think on the mobile situation, you would have to have it accessing, a specific node. You wouldn't have, but I think it would. A lot of the encryption and all that stuff would happen in the phone, as far as generating the transaction. But as far as like, desktop computers in like an office or something like that, I do see the value there where you wouldn't necessarily want, all of the wallets to be using one central node for like all the wallet the browser wallets, let's say, right? Like the wallet application. I guess you wouldn't necessarily want them to be connecting to just a single node, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's like one thing I haven't even tested out is, let's say, my node. If I were to open it up to the public so now people could access the app off of mine, what potential security risk would that have? Or is that even possible? Or the wallets that are created off of my node, would they be fully compatible with your node, the master node? Or would there be any issues there, all the way from a security standpoint? Or if they create some sort of or whatever. That's again, I don't know that technology or how that would go about, but that's just one of my thoughts.
Yeah. So I know the answer to that one. When you're using the one second, there's a Discord. Maybe it's like a question. Oh, okay, so we join the Discord. But if oh, we have some more comments. But anyway, damn, that Discord is so distracting. I'm trying to think of it, think of this answer. But I'm like, yes, a new user, you know. Anyway, so when you create a wallet in the browser, it doesn't create anything in the node itself. Yeah. So it's all completely just in the browser. And the reason I did it like that because it was in the beginning I thought that I would allow users to rent node bandwidth, basically. Like I envisioned like a whole world of nodes that could rent out access to the social graph. And I'm not sure that I don't want to do that still. I'm just thinking about the best way to do it without like compromising security and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you're like allowing people to connect directly to your node, I mean, it really wouldn't be a big deal if you didn't have any Yada on it. You know what I mean? And, or you sent your Yada off from it at regular intervals after collecting it. So it's like, yeah. So, but I mean, just to answer your question, it's like you create a wallet in the browser, and none of that information is supposed to leave that browser. But again, whoever's hosting that app could manipulate the JavaScript or the app to do something malicious if they wanted to. So you basically are trusting the provider of that app where you're creating your wallet. You're trusting them with that.
And I guess the other aspect to that could also be, depending on how you package this. Again, if you package a local wallet, a light wallet, a local node into like a Windows executable, then you could digitally sign that and validate its integrity, which could be a pretty substantial deal. I mean, I know right now the node, when you run one of those on the Windows side, which I can speak of, it's a jungle of files. You have the initial Yada executable in there,
yeah.
But if you could package all of it as one, and ultimately, I would be content if there were just a general Windows interface associated with this. Let's just say you have everything that's in place right now. It does the exact same thing, but when you hit that YadaCoin.exe, it pops up with, number one, the terminal or the command prompt, and then number two, it also opens up some sort of additional box that could run just a fancy UI that would do the exact same thing as the web interface, but now talks back to your node through whatever API you have in place, instead of going through that web interface.
Now, are we talking about a completely new user interface, or could it just be like a new window that pops up that's like a web view that has the web app that's already created?
Honestly, I feel like it could go either way. And I say that because, let's just say I'll use Windows or Mac as an example here. If you have a dedicated wallet for each of them, when you close that wallet, it then, instead of fully closing out, because there's still going to be a terminal open in the background, it just minimizes it to, in Windows, something in the bottom right-hand corner, or in Mac, something in the top bar, that if you want to reopen that wallet while it's still running in the background, while that node's still running in the background, you just double-click it, and then it either opens that dedicated user interface, or it opens a new web browser that then points to wherever you need to go. But again, I'm going all over the place with this, but from a technical standpoint, or from the administration standpoint of that, most firewalls in an organizational standpoint, or from an organizational standpoint, will probably have those ports, protocols, and everything else shut down. So let's say traffic over port 80 or port 443 without a valid certificate, it's going to be shut down. So something from the user standpoint trying to access that, they may or may not be able to, because, again, from the firewall level, it's shut down.
Now, are you talking about accessing 443 like YadaCoin.io, or I'm not sure you mean?
Maybe from a local node, local wallet.
Oh, I see. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like the only thing that needs, in the short term, maybe the only thing that needs to happen is so the issue is that I'm very Linux centric minded, so I just think, okay, we'll start it up in the terminal, and it runs, using systemd or whatever, and it just runs in the background. But there's the other side where you open it by double clicking the exe on Windows, and then it just pops up the terminal, and that's not very helpful either. So yeah, I think just having the wallet window pop up automatically would probably at least on Windows, I think would be a major help. Because I mean, if we're talking about growing the non-technical base, most of them are going to be either using Windows or Apple anyway. So it's if we can just detect how, well, I think it's when I package the application, I can, set a flag or something like that to where it can choose to open the window when the app is launched, or not. So yeah, if I package it for Windows, then it will open the window, or if I package it for Apple, it'll open up the window. But I think if you just run the setup script for Linux or whatever, then it won't try to open up any window.
See, and I think that would be honestly sufficient, because those that are running Linux chances are going to be more tech savvy. They're going to be more knowledgeable in that instance. And I think with that, as long as it's documented properly, then I don't think opening a web browser and accessing that, assuming all of the firewall rules and everything there are set properly during the install, that they'll be able to hit that site.
So we have a comment here. Usage of YadaCoin.io/app depends on the resource availability. A person may think downloaded local app should be always okay. Yeah, that's true. So I guess it depends on, or it comes down to reliability also. So you'll always be able to access, you'll always be able to access your local node. Yeah, and YadaCoin.io, maybe, hopefully we don't have the downtime, but it's always a possibility.
Yeah, and with that said, again, like I can speak from the standpoint of like Microsoft message queuing, where if there's a message that's being sent out or some sort of communication that's being sent out and it's utilizing the Microsoft message queuing, then if that connection is not there, it will just sit in the queue until the connection is there, and then all at once it'll blast out the messages. So even if a full-time connection to this node isn't in place, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. The transaction would just be on hold, or that message communication would just be on hold until that connection is made. And I think on the mobile standpoint also, that would be something big too, because sometimes cell phone signals are spotty, or the network access in general is spotty. So what do if you try to send a message? And this isn't even including the transaction aspect from the financial standpoint, trying to send Yada from point A to point B, but this is just if I'm trying to send you a message, and does it just automatically fail and then go away, or would it sit there and wait in some sort of queue until it does have a connection back to the node and then blast it out?
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, it's like wait for that like WebSocket connection to reconnect, and then it would have like a queue. It basically already works kind of like that on the browser side. So that's not super crazy. All right. So I think we've been at this maybe quite long enough. But I think my 2 takeaways for today are to make the window pop up with the wallet. And I think that will make it a lot easier for folks on Windows. So we'll do that for Windows. I haven't heard too much noise about Apple. I still feel like I should have an Apple compatible wallet packaged. I just haven't heard really like anybody talk about it. So I just haven't.
I mean, if you had that, that's what I'd be using, because I'm primarily Mac based. So.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay. Well, then say no more. So I will package it for Windows. I will package it for Apple, and then I'll go back to making it a single executable, which really it just is like a compressed archive that unpacks it into the temp directory. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But
looks like M2 just sent another message.
All right. It's not about YadaCoin.io availability issues. Perhaps the web resource is banned for some reason. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and that's the ultimate. That is the ultimate goal, is for YadaCoin.io to not be directly involved or depended upon for communication, right? So I mean, yeah, I mean we want to encourage everybody to use their own nodes. So I could even like turn YadaCoin.io off completely as far as being a node option, and the rest of the network could go completely fine. All right, so as for the Lite app for local usage, it may be a lightweight browser with a hard-coded app page, but loaded from the Yada site, loaded not from the Yada site, but the nearest node available. Yeah. Yeah. That would be, I think, a really big thing, is if we could put nodes out there that are willing to take um, light wallet connections.
Mhm.
That would be huge. But it's how do you pay for that? I still think it's a matter of like mining. But is that too technical? Do you think?
Maybe, maybe not. And it could be where you allow people to you incentivize them to run a full node, but then you also allow them to run a small node. Like I have multiple computers, I have multiple laptops, where one of which I have most of my wallets stored on, but I may want to access that from another one. And on that other one, my option is to go directly to YadaCoin app or YadaCoin.io/app to hit my wallet there, or alternatively, I could have a light wallet on that.
Yeah.
And then again, to incentivize people, if they're running this full node or they have the full blockchain downloaded on their wallet, and maybe for the light wallet, you have that option for people to download the full blockchain on it and then run a full node, or it could be as simple as a radio button saying, hey, if you click this and you have a balance over XYZ, you'll be considered a full node and you'll be able to more or less handle transactions as they go through. And the reward for doing that and having it running for so long is every transaction that goes through your node, you get 0.001% of that transaction, whatever it might be.
So if you're like I'm just thinking about how to actually implement this. So if you're a miner or a pool, and you're connected to a bunch of nodes, and you're able to see the uptime of each of your peers, you would reward them for some reason for their uptime. Why would they do that though? You know what I mean?
Why would they do what?
Why
Maintain their uptime?
why would the miner or the pool reward their peers just simply for their uptime?
Because those transactions would be routed through them, increasing the anonymity of the blockchain.
Okay. So we're basically just kind of like sharing a little bit more of the block reward from each miner, for all of their peers. That, I mean, really, it makes sense. It's like saying, hey, thanks for giving me the transactions to mine.
And isn't this necessarily, isn't this kind of like staking the coin for other coins where they hold so many? And let's say I have a pool of 100 coins. You want to do a transaction of one coin. That one coin goes into my wallet. Then I do a transaction of one coin out of my wallet to another wallet. And then with each hop like that, it makes it more anonymous because, again, that coin stops at that one wallet and then switches to another one. So if I have a pool of 100,000 coins and someone wants to do a transaction of 10, 15, 20,000 coins, again, it could be my node then transfers a small portion of that to another node, and then another node does so many, and it goes like that. And then again, for me having so many of those, there's already the transaction fee. So let's say that transaction fee is now used towards something more than just my node or your node or whatever it might be. Let's say it's now paid out in small increments to the people that are running these full nodes that are set up to be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I still think that it's like if you're like, you mine coins or whatever, and then you send all of those coins to like another wallet, and then that wallet sends it to that wallet, and then like comes back to you eventually. I think I'm not sure if I'm like not understanding correctly, but I think with other coins that might increase the anonymity, but I think with YadaCoin that would still be pretty traceable. But that can't be possibly what you're talking about, because you wouldn't be like trusting these other nodes to send the coins back. I mean, is that the whole process of staking though, where like you're like sending?
That's my understanding of it. And again, this would be something that the user would have to opt in for. So let's say I have my node configured. It's not a node used for or used as a mining pool. It's just a node that has X amount of coins in it. Now let's just use 100,000 coins as an example. If I have 100,000 coins in this node that's used, that's locked, that are staked, I cannot touch those coins. They have to stay there. And the point of that would be any transactions that then touch my node, those coins get more or less exchanged for different coins out of my pool of staked coins. Now, potentially the flip side of this also could be from the message standpoint of this, where with these messages, I don't quite understand this part of it. Every time I send a message, do I have to send a coin along with it, or how would that be done? Will it be sent through the blockchain? So let's say if that is the case, if I send a message, that message automatically comes with a coin, or a portion of a coin goes through a node. That node then sends me a coin back, so I don't ever lose any Yada during that message being sent.
It can be. It's the that's the idea of it. So the idea is to use YadaCoins to stop spam. Is really what it boils down to. It's like, you know, if this scales up and it grows to the level that, you know, or to a big level, then it's like we're gonna have a lot of spam, right? Because you know, if you allow somebody to do something for free, then it's gonna, you know, get out of control pretty quickly. So the way we do that is we use the coin. So we require like certain coin amounts to take part in a conversation, right? So we say like, okay, well, give me all the messages in this group where somebody sent at least, you know, 1 Satoshi worth of YadaCoin or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay.
Yeah.
So then, if you break it down, so let's say from the anonymity perspective of this, every transaction that happens has to go through 6 different jumps. That way, it has to exchange coins 6 different kinds with, or 6 different times with 6 different nodes. That way, again, I have my coins staked. You send M2 10 coins. That node that then has to go through my node to be sent to him before. But then it also has to go through 7 different nodes. But every single time, every single node that it hits, it exchanges its coins for other coins, and this is without any user interaction. So this would be something that's done on the back end that you code a program into this, where it talks to my node, and again, this would be taking into consideration all the validation verification that's done on the back end of it to make sure that I am a valid node. But that way, the coins that I send are not the same coins that he receives. It's taken out of my pool of coins. So I get your coins, I send him different coins.
I see. So that solves my issue with it, where you're trusting other people with your coins because those coins are locked. Like, yeah, so you're sending it to this other place, you know, to get distributed around, but I'm thinking, well, they could just take my coins, but no, because those are staked, they're locked, and it only gets passed around to locked um, coin deposits or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, and then the incentive to that would be for every transaction that goes through my node, I get a small percentage of it, or you get a small percentage of it. And it may only be a small fraction of a coin, but again, with a lot of these nodes, you see over time, depending on how many transactions they are, it gives them a reason to do it, a reason to lock these coins.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's interesting. So okay, so there's that, and then um, so the main reason I did random X is to make it so that it was CPU mineable, right? So my goal is to make this accessible to non-technical people.
Hmm.
That's my goal. So I'm thinking like it wouldn't really be that difficult to make to like package the miner with the Yada node and then like have like the light wallet, right? Um,
Hmm.
fire up the yeah. So the light wallet would um, execute the miner in the background, and it would generate its own wallet and automatically edit the miner configuration
Hmm.
for the user, and then
And even with that, if you could make it so it comes up, um, you could provide it with your personal with. That way, it opens up your previous wallet instead of creating a new one, if that makes sense. Because again, with this,
right,
you're figuring that someone is going to have only a single identity on that. It's not going to be a full node. It's not going to be for anything else. No one else is going to be accessing it. It's only going to be the user. So if you can either have them open their with, or if they want to create a new wallet, it creates that with. But then again, with this, it would be with the intention of no one else necessarily accessing it. So this is again where like the center identity stuff could come into play. Where I know some other things that I saw you showcase were like creating or selecting a location or a map, stuff like that. Where now you have this single identity on your computer, and instead of every time having to go to the web-based app and put in your WIF, or because it's cached in your cookies or whatever. Now it could be where it's stored in there, but now you have to put in whatever factor that that form of authentication to open this wallet.
yeah. I think there is going to have to be some kind of like management feature in the wallet from the browser where it does have some kind of control over the node.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially if we're enable the mining aspect of it, um, it's like you're gonna want to, especially if you have multiple identities, you're gonna want to you're gonna need to tell the miner which address you are trying to mine to. You know, it's like which identity do you need coins in? You know.
Well, with that said, again, like that's where I think you're looking at this from the perspective of everyone is going to be mining to their own node. And I think that's probably a misconception because when you look at most other people, when they download these local wallets on their machines, they may be downloading the entire blockchain, but most of these other things they require a full software suite, the Stratum miner, to be fully set up and configured alongside their wallet in order to be able to mine on their own. But as time goes on, if YadaCoin increases in popularity, the difficulty is going to increase as well, which means, let's just say, any general user, it may not be profitable at that time for them to be able to mine on it because they may not be able to win any blocks. So their primary focus may be to only host a wallet of their own, but mine against one of these other mining pools because there's now that collective of miners mining against the win more blocks, and then ultimately those blocks, the winnings from it, the 25 Yada at this point, split between all of the users that are mining.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you'd have the light wallet, you'd have the local node, but the miner would be mining against um, a pool still.
Yes. So
Yeah.
just a matter of more or less owning their identity on their local machine, on their local device, and that's really it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I'm getting the hand signals from my producer.
I can keep talking about this for hours, but I think my wife will probably kill me also.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that gives me a good direction for the next 7 days until we get going. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's cool. Let me look at the chat real quick. Usage maybe a lightweight browser for hardcore app page, but loaded not from the guy, but from the news. Okay, yeah, we did that. They did not. They do host nodes, which the end user doesn't want to for some reason. They do host nodes, which the end user doesn't want to for some reason. Host node available. They do host nodes, which. Huh. I think that he's still talking about like connecting to another host or something like that with your light wallet. So I think that we've covered a lot of that. And M2, if I didn't articulate that correctly, then hit me up in the private messages and we can talk about that. But yeah, I think that for now, yeah, popping up that wallet in Windows and Apple, and then maybe packaging. I'm gonna look into packaging the miner with that and making that fire up, and then maybe even allowing you to control which pool and which address you mine to, and from the wallet web interface, and then doing encrypted communication between the nodes for version 4.8. I think those would probably be pretty good features to add.
And I'm going to take a couple screenshots and I'm going to send them to you for the pools that I host. That way you can get a better understanding or a better idea of what I'm talking about when I'm saying a user interface. Because their wallets are literally like the background node. And then from there you just configure it to use that node, that wallet, to be able to mine against.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see how other projects do it. I don't have as much exposure to other projects. Just kind of like heads down in my own thing. And from what I understand, my project is quite different. So,
yes, vastly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and speaking of user interfaces, I need to get your interface included into the main wallet for the pool instead of my whatever you call that thing that I made. So yeah. All right, man. Well, yeah, I appreciate you coming on. It was an awesome talk. Really, added a lot of value. It was great, and it's good meeting you as well, seeing you on camera.
Yeah, you too. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Cool, man. All right, talk soon. Thanks for joining, everybody.
See ya.